The stars looked different from the observation deck of the Galactic Council station. Captain Hyjin pressed her hand against the cold glass and watched ships from 100 worlds drift past like fireflies. She had dreamed of this moment since she was a child on Earth, but now that she was here, all she felt was the weight of eyes watching her. Ambassador Tae Yang stood beside her, his reflection ghostly in the glass. He was old now, his hair silver, but his eyes were still sharp. He had been negotiating peace treaties before Hyjin was born. This was his final mission before retirement, and he had chosen her to observe and learn. "They will not make this easy," Tae Yang said quietly. "The Vril think we are primitives. The Shalkoth believe we are savages. To them, Earth is a death world and we are Deathworlders." Hyjin turned to face him. "But we are here to help them make peace." "Yes, but they do not want our help. They want to show us we do not belong here." Tae Yang smiled sadly. "Stay quiet during the meeting. Watch. Learn. That is all I ask." The council chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from species that came in every shape and size. The Vril delegation occupied one side of the circular room. They were insectoid creatures, their bodies covered in dark shells that gleamed under the lights. Their ambassador was called Clicking Mandible 7, though humans just called him 7. He stood surrounded by 6 other Vril, all perfectly still, all thinking as one. The Vril were a hive mind, thousands of individuals sharing one consciousness across their home world. On the opposite side sat the Shalkoth delegation. They were beautiful in a strange way, their bodies made of living crystal that caught and split the light into rainbows. Their ambassador, Refraction of Dawn, shifted through colors constantly. Hyjin had learned that each color meant something different. Right now, Dawn was showing deep red, which meant anger or determination. The human delegation sat between them. Just 3 people. Tae Yang, Hyjin, and their assistant Minho, who managed the translation systems and recorded everything. Compared to the alien delegations, they looked small and insignificant. The mediator was a Quen, a species known for peace and wisdom. The Quen looked like floating jellyfish, translucent and gentle. The mediator's name was Drifting Through Silence, and its voice came through the translation system as soft and musical. "We gather here to end the conflict between the Vril Collective and the Shalkoth Empire. This war has lasted 3 cycles. 70 worlds have been damaged. Millions have died. It must end." 7 spoke first. His voice was a clicking, chittering sound that the translator turned into flat, emotionless words. "The Vril Collective seeks only what is ours. The Shalkoth took the mining rights to the Kess asteroid field through deception. We demand their return." Dawn's colors flashed orange and yellow. "Lies. The Shalkoth Empire won those rights through legal trade agreements. The Vril simply want what they cannot have." Tae Yang raised his hand, a gesture asking for permission to speak. Drifting Through Silence's tentacles rippled in acknowledgement. "Perhaps," Tae Yang said carefully, "the solution is to share the mining rights. The asteroid field is large. Both species could extract resources without conflict. Earth has experience with shared resource management. We could help establish a framework." The chamber went silent. Then 7 laughed. It was a horrible sound, like breaking glass mixed with insect wings. "The Deathworlder speaks of sharing. How amusing. Your species still fights wars on your own planet. Your people still kill each other over resources. And you dare to lecture civilized species about cooperation?" Dawn's colors shifted to a pale blue. Agreement. "The Shalkoth concur. Humans are too young, too violent to understand our problems. Your world made you aggressive. You cannot help us." Hyjin felt her face grow hot. She wanted to speak, to defend humanity, but Tae Yang's hand touched her arm gently. "A warning." She stayed silent. The negotiations continued for hours. Every suggestion was rejected. Every compromise was dismissed. The Vril and Shalkoth agreed on only one thing. They did not want human help. Finally, Tae Yang stood. His voice was tired. "Then we have failed today, but we will try again tomorrow. Peace is worth any amount of patience." As they left the chamber, Hyjin could hear 7 and Dawn already arguing again, their voices rising. Minho walked ahead, but Tae Yang moved slowly, one hand pressed to his chest. Hyjin noticed but said nothing. The old ambassador was proud. That night, Hyjin could not sleep. She walked the corridors of the council station, watching the various species going about their business. She saw Vril moving in perfect formation, their hive mind making them flow like water. She saw Shalkoth merchants haggling, their crystals chiming musically. She saw a dozen other species, all so different from each other, all somehow making this place work. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Council, accepted only 5 years ago. Earth was still seen as a dangerous world, and humans were still seen as dangerous creatures. Never mind that humanity had not fought a major war in 50 years. Never mind that Earth had unified under one government dedicated to peace. The other species only saw where humans came from. A world of storms and predators and diseases and disasters. A death world. The alarm began at dawn. Not the gentle chime of a morning announcement, but a harsh, screaming wail that meant emergency. Hee-Jin ran toward the human quarters, her heart pounding. The station shook. Lights flickered. Through the windows, Hee-Jin saw ships. Dozens of them. Hundreds. The Vril fleet had surrounded the station, their dark ships blocking out the stars. She found Tae Yang in the corridor outside his room. He was on the floor. His face was gray. Minho was already there, calling for medical help. "Attack!" Tae Yang gasped. The Vril, they attacked. Violated council law, another explosion. The station shook harder. Hee-Jin knelt beside Tae Yang and took his hand. "The Shalkoth fleet is coming," Minho said, his face pale as he watched his tablet. "They say they are coming to defend the station, but the news feeds think they just want to fight the Vril here." Tae Yang's grip on Hee-Jin's hand tightened. His eyes found hers. "Command," he whispered. "I give you command. Of the delegation. Of the mission." He coughed and there was blood on his lips. "Show them, Hee-Jin. Show them what Deathworlders really are." Medical personnel arrived, Quen healers with their gentle tentacles and strange medicines. They lifted Tae Yang onto a floating stretcher and carried him away. Hee-Jin stood in the corridor, Tae Yang's blood on her hands, and felt the station shake again as more weapons fire struck the shields. She was in command now. Around her, the station descended into chaos. Aliens ran through the corridors, some seeking shelter, others trying to reach their ships. And outside, 2 massive fleets prepared to destroy each other, with thousands of innocent diplomats trapped between them. Hee-Jin closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, her hands had stopped shaking. She knew what she had to do. "Minho," she said, "get me a channel to the Resilience, and then contact all human personnel on the station. I am ordering an immediate evacuation." "We are going to fight?" Minho asked. Hee-Jin smiled, but there was no humor in it. "No, we are going to run, and they are going to call us cowards, and that is exactly what I want them to think." The bridge of the Resilience was designed for diplomacy, not war. The screen showed star charts and translation matrices instead of weapon systems. The crew was small, just 20 people, all trained in protocols and languages rather than combat. But they were still human, and humans knew how to adapt. Lieutenant Jinwoo stood at attention as Hee-Jin entered. He was a former Marine, his body scarred from battles before he joined the diplomatic corps. His jaw was tight and his eyes were hard. "Captain," he said. The word felt strange. Hee-Jin had been promoted just an hour ago, and the crew still looked at her like she might not be ready. "The ship is ready. Weapons are charged. We can provide cover fire for the evacuation." "No weapons," Hee-Jin said. She moved to the captain's chair but did not sit. Instead, she studied the tactical display. The Vril fleet formed a sphere around the station. The Shalkoth fleet was approaching fast, their crystalline ships gleaming like knives. "We evacuate all human personnel. We do not fire a single shot. Not even in defense." The bridge went silent. Jinwoo's face darkened. "With respect, Captain, the station is under attack. People are dying. We have a duty to help." "Our duty is to our people first," Hee-Jin said. She turned to face him. "And I am ordering a full retreat. Is that clear, Lieutenant?" Jinwoo's hands formed fists at his sides. For a moment, Hee-Jin thought he might refuse. Then he saluted stiffly. "Yes, Captain. Crystal clear." Communications Officer Subin worked frantically at her station. She was young, fresh from Earth, and her hands shook as she opened channels. "Captain, I am getting messages from all over the station. The Quen are begging us to help negotiate. The Vril are demanding we surrender our ship. The Shalkoth want us to join their fleet in defense." "Ignore them all," Hee-Jin said. "Broadcast on all human frequencies. Every human ship in this sector is to evacuate immediately. Any human personnel on the station are to get to the nearest human vessel. No exceptions. No delays. What about the other species? Subin asked. What about the wounded? The diplomats? Heejin felt something cold settle in her chest. She thought of Tae Yang in the medical bay, unconscious and dying. She thought of the Quen mediator who had been kind to her. She thought of the hundreds of innocent beings trapped on that station. We leave them, she said quietly. The evacuation began. Human personnel fled the station in small shuttles and transport ships. The Resilience and 3 other human vessels moved away from the battle zone, their engines burning hard. They did not fire their weapons. They did not help with defense. They just ran. The galactic communication networks exploded with outrage. Heejin watched the messages scroll across her screen. They came in dozens of languages, but the translation system made them all clear. Cowards. Deathworlders are only brave when fighting the weak. Humanity abandons its allies. The humans show their true nature. They flee from real danger. Even the peaceful Quen sent a message. Drifting through silence's voice was disappointed. We thought humans understood honor. We were wrong. Inside the Resilience, the mood was dark. Crew members would not meet Heejin's eyes. In the mess hall, people whispered. In the corridors, they fell silent when she passed. She could feel their judgment like a physical weight. Jinwoo found her in her quarters late that night. She was not sleeping. She was studying data on her tablet, her eyes red from strain. Captain, I need to speak freely, Jinwoo said. Speak. The crew thinks you are a coward. Hell, I think you are a coward. Jinwoo's voice was harsh. We have weapons. We have training. Yes, we are a diplomatic vessel, but we are still from Earth. We are Deathworlders. We could fight. We should fight. Heejin set down her tablet. And if we fight? What then? Then we show them we are not cowards. We show them humans do not abandon people. We show them we have honor. And we die, Heejin said flatly. The Resilience against 2 full battle fleets. We would last maybe 10 minutes. 20 if we are lucky, and then we would be dead, and nothing would change. The Vril and Shalkoth would still be killing each other. The station would still fall. More people would die, but at least we would die with honor, right? Jinwoo had no answer for that. I do not care about honor, Heejin continued. I do not care what they think of me. I do not care if the galaxy calls me a coward for the rest of my life. I care about winning. And you cannot win if you are dead. Then what is your plan? Jinwoo demanded. Because right now it looks like we are just running away. Heejin smiled. It was not a nice smile. That is exactly what I want it to look like. Now get out, and send Engineer Dong-hyun and Science Officer Yuna to me. I have work for them. After Jinwoo left, Heejin returned to her data. She had been studying the Vril and Shalkoth for hours, reading everything Earth's databases had on them. Their biology, their psychology, their military tactics, their communication systems. The other species saw humans as primitives from a death world. They thought Earth's harsh environment had made humans violent and aggressive. They were not entirely wrong. Earth was brutal. Humans had evolved alongside predators and diseases and natural disasters. They had learned to be tough, but they had also learned something else. Something the Vril and Shalkoth did not understand. Earth had taught humans how to hunt. Dong-hyun arrived first. He was a genius with machines, able to rebuild a ship's engine with spare parts and wire. He looked nervous. Captain, the crew is talking. They say, I know what they say, Heejin interrupted. I need you to modify our communications array. Can you make it broadcast on military frequencies? Dong-hyun blinked. Military frequencies? You mean the ones the Vril and Shalkoth fleets use? That would be, well, yes, technically possible, but it would take time, and I would need to know their exact frequency signatures. You will have them, Heejin said. How long? Maybe 8 hours. Maybe 12. Yuna entered. She was the ship's science officer, trained in xenobiology and physics. She was calm, always calm, even now. You wanted to see me, Captain? I need you to analyze the Vril hive mind and the Shalkoth command structure. I need to know how they think, how they communicate, what their weaknesses are. Yuna's eyes widened with understanding. You are planning something. Yes. Something that does not involve weapons. Correct. Yuna sat down without being asked. Tell me what you need. For the next hour, Heejin explained her plan. It was risky. It was unprecedented. It might not work at all. But if it did, It would be the kind of victory that Earth specialized in. The kind where the enemy never even knew they were being hunted until it was too late. When she finished, Dong-hyun was grinning. "Captain, this is crazy." "This is absolutely insane, but will it work?" Hyejin asked. "Maybe, if we are lucky, if they do not detect us, if their systems work the way we think they do." Dong-hyun stood up. "I will start immediately." Yuna was already working on her tablet. "I will need access to every database we have on Vril and Shalkoth psychology, and I will need to run simulations. Captain, if this works, you will be famous. And if it does not work?" Yuna looked up. Her calm expression did not change. "Then we will be dead and our names will be forgotten as cowards." "Good," Hyejin said. "Then we had better make sure it works." Over the next 2 days, Hyejin kept the Resilience at the edge of sensor range. The ship drifted in the dark between stars, watching as the Vril and Shalkoth fleets destroyed each other around the Council Station. The station's shields were failing. Casualties were mounting. The Galactic News Network showed images of the destruction, and every broadcast mentioned the cowardly humans who had fled. Hyejin watched it all and felt nothing. Not guilt, not shame, just cold calculation. Jinwoo came to the bridge on the 3rd day. He stood beside her chair and stared at the tactical display. "The station's shields are at 15%. They will fail within hours. Thousands will die, Captain. Does that mean nothing to you?" "It means everything to me," Hyejin said quietly. "That is why I am going to stop it." Jinwoo looked at her, really looked at her, and slowly understanding began to dawn in his eyes. "You have a plan. I always had a plan. And the retreat was necessary. They had to think we were gone. They had to forget about us." Hyejin smiled. "On Earth, the most successful predators are not the strongest or the fastest. They are the ones their prey never see coming." She stood and addressed the bridge crew. Her voice carried to every corner of the ship. "All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for combat operations. But remember, we are not going to fire a single shot. We are going to do what Deathworlders do best. We are going to hunt, and our prey has no idea we are even here." The engineering bay of the Resilience looked like a disaster had struck it. Cables hung from the ceiling. Panels had been torn from the walls. Equipment was scattered everywhere. In the middle of the chaos stood Dong-hyun, his hands covered in grease, his eyes bright with excitement. "Show me," Hyejin said. Dong-hyun led her to the main communications array. It had been completely rebuilt. Where before there had been simple diplomatic broadcasting equipment, now there was something that looked like a weapon. The Resilience was designed to broadcast on every known frequency, Dong-hyun explained. He pointed to different components as he talked. For translation, for first contact scenarios, for emergency signals. But I have modified it. Now it can broadcast on very specific frequencies, military frequencies, and it can do so with incredible precision. He activated a display. It showed 2 sets of waveforms, one blue and one red. The blue is the Vril fleet's communication frequency. The red is the Shalkoth. I have been monitoring both for the past 3 days. I know exactly how they communicate. Can you interfere with their communications? Hyejin asked. Better than that, Dong-hyun said. I can add to them. I can inject signals into their communication networks without them knowing. To them, it will look like the signals come from their own ships. Hyejin felt a cold smile form on her face. Perfect. How soon can you be ready? I am ready now. Just give me the targets and I can begin. In the science lab, Yuna had covered every wall with data. Biological scans, psychological profiles, historical records, military reports. She stood in the center of it all like a spider in a web, her tablet in hand, her eyes moving rapidly as she absorbed information. The Vril are fascinating, she said when Hyejin entered. She did not look up from her work. Their hive mind is their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. They evolved on a world with almost no predators, no competition. They developed cooperation as a survival trait, not aggression. Their hive mind works because every individual Vril is perfectly synchronized with every other Vril. And how do they synchronize? Hyejin asked. Yuna pulled up a diagram. It showed brain waves, complex patterns of neural activity. Through electromagnetic signals, every Vril brain broadcasts on the same frequency. It is how they share thoughts. How they make decisions as one mind. The synchronization has to be perfect, down to the microsecond. What happens if the synchronization breaks? Then they stop being a hive mind. They become individuals, confused, frightened, unable to coordinate. Yuna looked at Hyejin. If you could disrupt their synchronization frequency, you could cripple their entire fleet. Not disrupt, Hyejin said. That would be too obvious. Just delay. Introduce tiny lags in the signal. Make them think it is a technical problem, not an attack. Yuna's eyes widened. That is brilliant. And cruel. It would drive them mad not knowing what was wrong. Hyejin moved to the section of the wall covered with information about the Shalkoth. And them? The Shalkoth are the opposite of the Vril, Yuna said. She pulled up images of the crystalline aliens. They evolved in deep caves protected from all danger. They never needed deception or strategy. Their entire culture is based on direct, honest combat. They consider anything else to be without honor. That sounds foolish, Hyejin said. To us, yes, but their world shaped them differently than Earth shaped us. On Earth, we had to compete with thousands of other species. We were both predator and prey. We learned to use tools, to plan, to deceive. The Shalkoth never needed to learn those skills. They just needed to be strong and honest. So their weakness is that they cannot imagine dishonesty. Exactly. Their command structure is entirely based on trust. When a Shalkoth commander gives an order, every ship obeys without question. They have no protocols for verifying orders. Why would they? Shalkoth do not lie. Hyejin studied the data. An idea was forming. What if we could make them hear orders that were never given? Orders that seemed to come from their own commanders? Yuna was already nodding. Donghyun's modifications to the communications array could do it. We could inject false commands directly into their command network. They would have no way to tell the difference between real orders and fake ones, and they would start to doubt everything, Hyejin said. They would hesitate, make mistakes, turn on each other. The two women looked at each other. What they were planning was psychological warfare at its most refined. It was the kind of tactic that only a species from a death world could conceive. A species that had learned to survive by thinking 3 steps ahead of their enemies. Is it ethical? Yuna asked quietly. Hyejin thought of the council station. She thought of Tai Yang dying in the medical bay. She thought of all the innocent beings trapped between 2 fleets waiting to die. Is war ethical? At least this way, nobody has to die. Over the next hours, Hyejin coordinated with the other human ships in the area. There were 4 vessels total, all diplomatic ships, all lightly armed. They formed a loose perimeter around the battle zone, staying just beyond sensor range. To the warring fleets, the humans had vanished. They were gone, forgotten, dismissed as cowards. That was exactly what Hyejin wanted. She gathered her senior staff in the conference room. Jinwoo, Donghyun, Yuna, and Subin, also Minho, who had been with her from the beginning. They all looked at her with different expressions. Jinwoo still had doubt in his eyes. Donghyun showed excitement. Yuna was calm as always. Subin looked nervous. Minho just looked tired. In 1 hour we begin, Hyejin said. She brought up a tactical display on the table. It showed the Vril fleet, the Shalkoth fleet, and the council station between them. The station's shields are failing. We have very little time. If we do nothing, thousands die. If we attack directly, we die and nothing changes. So we do something else, something they will never expect from a species they think is too primitive to understand strategy. She traced lines on the display. The Vril communicate through a hive mind. We introduce delays in their neural synchronization. Not enough to shut them down, just enough to make them clumsy. They will start making small mistakes. Their formations will develop gaps. The Shalkoth trust their command structure absolutely. She continued. We inject false orders into their network. Orders that seem to come from their own commanders. They will start doubting which orders are real. They will hesitate. They will question. Jinwoo leaned forward. And while they are confused, we do what? We broadcast on open channels. We reveal everything. We tell them exactly what we did and how we did it. We show them that a single human ship infiltrated their communications, manipulated their fleets, and could have destroyed them if we wanted to. Why would we tell them? Subin asked. Why not just keep it secret? Because fear only works if people know what they should be afraid of, Hyejin said. The galaxy thinks we are cowards. We need to show them what we really are. Not monsters, not barbarians, but something more dangerous. We are hunters from a death world, and we have learned skills they cannot even imagine. Minho spoke for the first time. You are gambling everything on this. If it does not work, our reputation is destroyed forever. Earth will be humiliated. We will never be taken seriously again. And if we do nothing, Heejin asked, then thousands die and humanity is still seen as cowards. At least this way we try. At least this way we might save lives. She looked around the table. I know what I'm asking. I know this is not how diplomacy usually works. But we are not in a usual situation. I need to know if you are with me. Dong-hyun did not hesitate. I am with you, Captain. Let us show them what Deathworlders can do, Yuna nodded. The plan is sound. I am with you. Subin took a deep breath. I joined the diplomatic corps to help people. If this helps people, then I am with you. Minho was silent for a long moment. Then he smiled. Tae-yang chose you for a reason. He saw something in you that the rest of us did not. I am with you. Everyone turned to Jinwoo. The former Marine sat with his arms crossed, his face unreadable. Finally he stood up. I called you a coward, he said. I was wrong. This plan is not cowardly. It is the opposite. It takes more courage to win without fighting than to just fire weapons and hope for the best. I am with you, Captain. All the way. Heejin felt something warm spread through her chest. Relief, gratitude, hope. Thank you, all of you. Now let us get to work. We have 1 hour to prepare. After that we hunt. The crew dispersed to their stations. Heejin returned to the bridge and sat in the captain's chair. Through the view screen, she could see the distant flashes of weapons fire as the two fleets continued their battle. The council station was a small point of light, growing dimmer as its shields failed. She thought of Tae-yang's last words. Show them what Deathworlders really are. The galaxy was about to learn. The bridge of the Resilience was silent except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep of sensors. Every crew member sat at their station, hands ready, eyes focused. They had practiced for the past hour, running through the plan again and again until every movement was automatic. Heejin sat in the captain's chair and watched the tactical display. The Vril fleet formed a dark cloud around the council station, hundreds of insectoid ships moving in perfect formation. The Shalkoth fleet approached from the other side, their crystalline vessels catching the light of nearby stars. Between them, the station's shields flickered and dimmed, down to just 8% power. Status, Heijin said. Dong-hyun's voice came from engineering. Communications array is ready. I have locked onto both fleet command frequencies. Standing by, Yuna looked up from her science station. Psychological profiles are loaded. Attack patterns are programmed. Ready on your command, Captain. Subin's hands hovered over her console. Broadcasting systems ready? All channels prepared. Jinwoo stood at the tactical station even though they would not be using weapons. All other human ships are in position. They are ready to support our signal if needed. Heejin took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would either prove her brilliant or destroy her completely. She thought of Earth, of the billions of humans who would be judged by what happened in the next hour. She thought of Tae-yang fighting for his life in the medical bay. She thought of all the beings on that station waiting to die. Begin, she said. Dong-hyun's fingers flew over his controls in engineering. The modified communications array came to life, invisible waves reaching out across space. The signal was carefully crafted, a whisper hidden inside the normal communications traffic of the Vril fleet. On the tactical display, nothing changed at first. The Vril ships continued their perfect formations, attacking the station's shields with coordinated precision. Then slowly the pattern began to shift. A ship moved just a fraction of a second too late. Another one turned at the wrong angle. Small mistakes, barely noticeable, but the Vril noticed. How could they not? Their hive mind operated on perfect synchronization. Even the smallest delay was like a scream in their collective consciousness. It is working, Yuna said. Her screen showed telemetry from the Vril fleet. Their neural synchronization is degrading. They are trying to compensate, but every adjustment we make creates more confusion. The Vril formations began to break apart. Ships that should have moved as one instead hesitated, stumbled, collided. Not crashes, nothing that dramatic, but enough to ruin their tactical advantage. The perfect swarm became a confused mob. Phase 2, Hyojin ordered. This time it was Subin who acted. She initiated the second program, the one designed for the Shalkoth. The crystalline fleet's command network was more complex than the Vril hive mind, but in some ways more vulnerable. The Shalkoth trusted their commanders absolutely. They had no reason not to. The first false order was subtle. A simple course correction, sent to 3 Shalkoth ships on the fleet's edge. The ships obeyed immediately, changing course. But the order had not come from their commanders. It had come from the Resilience. Yuna sent another false order, then another. Each one seemed to come from legitimate Shalkoth command channels. Each one was obeyed without question. Ships began moving in strange patterns, breaking formation, turning away from optimal attack positions. On the tactical display, both fleets descended into chaos. The Vril could not understand why their coordination was failing. The Shalkoth could not understand why their ships were receiving conflicting orders. Each side blamed the other, thinking it was some new tactic, some clever strategy. The station's shields are holding, Jinwoo reported. Both fleets have stopped their assault. They are too confused to attack effectively. Haejin watched the chaos and felt no joy. This was not a game. This was survival. But now came the hardest part. The part that would either save everyone or doom them all. Subin sent the final broadcast. All frequencies. Open channel. I want every ship in both fleets to hear this. I want every being on that station to hear this. I want the entire galaxy to hear this. Subin's hand shook as she opened the channels. Ready, Captain. Haejin stood. She faced the view screen. Even though she knew the aliens would only hear her voice, not see her face, she thought carefully about her words. Everything depended on this moment. This is Captain Haejin of Earth's Diplomatic Corps, commanding the vessel Resilience. I am broadcasting on all frequencies so that everyone can hear what I'm about to say. In the background, she could hear her own voice echoing through translation systems across both fleets. On the station. On news networks. Across the galaxy, 3 days ago you called us cowards. You said Deathworlders only understand violence. You said we were too primitive, too aggressive, too young to understand civilized warfare. You were wrong about all of those things. She gestured to Dong-hyun. On command, he sent a data package to both fleets. Complete specifications of everything they had done. The frequency manipulations. The false orders. The psychological warfare techniques, everything. For the past hour, a single human ship has been controlling both of your fleets. The Vril Collective. We have been disrupting your neural synchronization with precisely timed signal delays. Every mistake your ships have made was because we made your hive mind clumsy. The Shalkoth Empire. We have been injecting false orders into your command network. Every strange maneuver your ships performed was because we told them to, and they obeyed us thinking we were you. The silence that followed was absolute. Haejin could imagine the shock, the horror, the disbelief spreading through both fleets. We could have done worse, she continued. Her voice was cold now, hard. We could have turned your fleets against each other. We could have made you destroy yourselves. We could have broadcast your homeworld coordinates across the entire galaxy. We could have shut down your hive mind completely, or made your ships think every order was false. We had the power to cripple both of you without firing a single shot. She paused. Let that sink in, but we did not. Because unlike you, we understand what warfare truly costs. You see, you were right about one thing. Earth is a death world. It is brutal and harsh and unforgiving, and it made us into survivors. But it also taught us something you have never learned. It taught us when not to fight. Another pause. Haejin could feel her heart pounding, but her voice stayed steady. You think violence makes us primitive, but we have fought wars that nearly destroyed our entire species. We have created weapons that could kill billions. We have looked into the abyss of total destruction and stepped back, not because we were weak, but because we were smart enough to understand that winning at any cost is the same as losing. She took a breath. The council station's shields are failing. Thousands of innocent beings are going to die unless you both stop this insanity. You can continue fighting if you want, but now you know what we can do. Now you know that while you were focused on each other, a single Deathworlder was playing you both like instruments. Ask yourselves, if we can do this much without even trying to hurt you, what could we do if we actually wanted to cause harm? The threat hung in space, unspoken but understood. Every commander in both fleets would be thinking the same thing. If humans could infiltrate their communications this easily, what else could they do? What other vulnerabilities existed? What other weaknesses had they never even imagined? I am giving you both one chance, Haejin said. Withdraw your fleets. Return to the negotiating table. Work toward peace, or I will demonstrate exactly what a Deathworlder can do when she is not being diplomatic. She cut the transmission. The bridge was silent. Everyone stared at her. He-Jin sat back down in the captain's chair and waited. This was the moment. Either the aliens would listen or they would attack, and everything would have been for nothing. The seconds stretched into minutes. The tactical display showed both fleets frozen, unmoving. He-Jin imagined the discussions happening on those ships. The arguments, the fear, the calculations. Then slowly, the Vril fleet began to move. But not toward the station. They were withdrawing. "Captain," Jinwoo said, his voice filled with wonder. "The Vril are pulling back. They are leaving the combat zone." "The Shalkoth too," Subin added. "They are not pursuing. They are withdrawing in the opposite direction." He-Jin allowed herself to breathe. It had worked. Somehow, impossibly, it had worked. "Subin, get me the council station. I want to speak with whoever is in charge." A moment later, a hologram appeared on the bridge. It was drifting through silence, the Quen mediator. The jellyfish-like being's tentacles were perfectly still, a sign of shock. "Captain Hyojin," the mediator said. Its voice was different now. Not disappointed, not dismissive. Something new. Something that might have been respect. "You have done what we thought impossible. I have stopped the fighting," Hyojin said. "For now. But the real work begins now. Both sides need to negotiate in good faith. Earth is willing to help mediate. But only if both sides truly want peace. I believe," drifting through silence said slowly, "that after today both sides will be very motivated to negotiate. The galaxy has learned something new about Deathworlders. We will not forget this lesson." The hologram faded. He-Jin stood and looked at her crew. They were all staring at her with new eyes. Eyes that held respect, admiration, even awe. "Captain," Jinwoo said, "I owe you more than an apology. I owe you my complete trust. You were never a coward. You were always the bravest person on this ship." He-Jin felt tears threaten, but she blinked them back. "I just did what Deathworlders do. I survived. And I made sure others could survive too." The council station's medical bay was crowded with wounded from a dozen different species. Quen healers moved between beds with their gentle tentacles. Mechanical doctors worked on crystalline Shalkoth, repairing fractured limbs. Nurses tended to the injured Vril, their chittering sounds filling the air. He-Jin walked through the chaos until she found the bed she was looking for. Ambassador Tae-Yang lay connected to machines, his chest rising and falling slowly. His eyes were closed, but they opened when she sat down beside him. "He-Jin," he whispered. His voice was weak, but there was warmth in it. "I heard what you did. The whole galaxy heard what you did. You told me to show them what Deathworlders really are," Hyojin said. She took his hand. "I hope I did not disappoint you." Tae-Yang smiled. "Disappoint? Child, you have done what I could never do in 40 years of negotiation. You have made them respect us. Not fear us. Not hate us. Respect us. That is the foundation of real peace. The Quen healers say you will recover," Hyojin said. "It will take time, but you will be back to work in a few months." "Good, because you will need help with the negotiations that are coming. The Vril and Shalkoth have agreed to talk, but they will not trust each other. They will need humans to mediate. They will need you." Tae-Yang's grip tightened on her hand. "You are ready, He-Jin." "More than ready. You are the future of Earth's diplomatic corps." A nurse approached, a small alien with fur and large eyes. "Ambassador needs rest now. Please come back later." He-Jin stood, but Tae-Yang held onto her hand for one more moment. "I am proud of you. Earth is proud of you. Never forget that." Walking back through the station, He-Jin saw how much had changed in just a few hours. Aliens who had refused to look at her before now stepped aside respectfully. Some even nodded in greeting. The whispers followed her, but they were different now. "That is the Deathworlder captain." She stopped the war. She did not fire a single shot. In the council chamber, the emergency meeting was already underway. He-Jin entered to find representatives from dozens of species gathered around the circular table. At the center stood Clicking Mandible 7 of the Vril and Refraction of Dawn of the Shalkoth. Both turned to look at her as she approached. 7 spoke first. The translator turned his clicking into words. "Captain He-Jin, the Vril Collective wishes to formally acknowledge that we underestimated your species. We called you primitives. We were the primitives, unable to see beyond our own limitations." Dawn's crystals shifted through a sequence of colors. Purple, blue, green. The translator interpreted. "The Shalkoth Empire concurs. We believed Deathworlders were only capable of violence. We did not understand that true strength comes from knowing when violence is unnecessary. We have much to learn from humanity. We all have much to learn from each other, Hee-jin said. She moved to stand between them. The Vril evolved cooperation as a strength. The Shalkoth evolved honor and directness. Humans evolved adaptability and strategy. None of these traits makes us better or worse than each other. They just make us different. And differences can be sources of strength if we learn to work together. Drifting through silence floated forward. The Galactic Council has been discussing Earth's status. For 5 years, humans have been probationary members, watched carefully, restricted in our activities. After today's events, the Council has voted. Earth is now a full member species with all rights and privileges, and Captain Hee-jin, you have been nominated to serve as a special mediator for conflicts between member species. The weight of that honor settled on Hee-jin's shoulders. She thought of all the work ahead, all the conflicts to resolve, all the species to bring together. It was overwhelming. It was also exactly what she had trained for. I accept, she said. On behalf of Earth and humanity, I accept. The meeting continued for hours, establishing the framework for new peace talks between the Vril and Shalkoth. Both sides agreed to share the mining rights to the Kess asteroid field. Both agreed to reparations for the damage caused. Both agreed to regular diplomatic contact with human mediators present. When it was finally over, Hee-jin returned to the Resilience. The ship felt different now. The crew moved with pride instead of shame. They smiled when they saw her. They stood a little straighter. Jinwoo met her at the airlock. Captain, Earth Command has been trying to reach you for the past 3 hours. They marked it urgent. In her quarters, Hye-jin opened the communication channel. The hologram that appeared was Fleet Admiral Jaemin, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's space forces. He was an old man with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then slowly he smiled. Captain Hye-jin, I have been in the military for 43 years. I have fought in 6 wars.
I have commanded fleets in battles that killed thousands.
And in all that time, I have never seen anyone accomplish what you did today. Thank you, Admiral, Hye-jin said. Earth Command has been flooded with communications from other species. Trade agreements, defense pacts, scientific exchanges, cultural visits. They all want to work with humanity now. They all want to learn from us. Jaemin leaned forward. You have changed everything, Captain. You have proven that humans are not just warriors. We are diplomats, strategists, peacemakers. The galaxy sees us differently now. I just did what needed to be done, Hee-jin said. No, you did more than that. You showed them that Deathworlders are not defined by our capacity for violence, but by our wisdom in avoiding it. That is a lesson the galaxy desperately needed to learn. Jaemin's expression became serious. You will be promoted, of course. Your choice of assignment. You can have any posting you want. Hee-jin thought about it. She could return to Earth, take a comfortable position at headquarters. She could accept a teaching role, training the next generation of diplomats. She could retire with honors and spend the rest of her life knowing she had made a difference. I want to stay here, she said. On the Resilience. Doing this work, the galaxy is full of conflicts like this one. Species that do not understand each other. Wars that do not need to be fought. I want to help stop them. Jaemin nodded as if he had expected that answer. Then you will stay, but with a new rank. Congratulations, Ambassador Hee-jin. Your first official mission will be overseeing the Vril-Shalkoth peace process. The hologram faded. Hye-jin sat alone in her quarters and let herself feel everything she had been holding back. The fear, the doubt, the crushing weight of responsibility, the relief that it had worked, the pride that she had saved lives without taking any. A soft chime at her door. Come in, she said. Yuna entered carrying 2 cups of tea. I thought you might need this, she said, handing one to Hye-jin. They sat together in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, Yuna spoke. Do you think it will last? The peace? I do not know, Hye-jin admitted. The Vril and Shalkoth have been enemies for years. Trust takes time to build. There will be setbacks, challenges, maybe even more violence. She sipped her tea. But now they know what humans can do. They know we can see their weaknesses. They know we can infiltrate their systems. That fear will keep them honest. Is that what you want? Peace through fear? No, I want peace through understanding. But fear is a good starting point. Hye-jin smiled. Besides, we also showed them we are fair. We could have destroyed them, but we chose to help them instead. That matters too. On the observation deck later that evening, the entire crew of the Resilience gathered. Hye-jin stood before them, seeing their faces properly for the first time since this all began. These people who had followed her even when they thought she was a coward. These people who had trusted her when she had given them no reason to. "I know the past few days were hard," she said. "I know you doubted me. Some of you thought I was running away. Some of you thought I was a coward. You were not wrong to think that. I gave you every reason to doubt." She looked at each of them in turn, but you stayed. You followed orders even when those orders made no sense. You worked harder than you have ever worked. And because of you, because of all of us working together, we saved thousands of lives. We stopped a war. We changed how the galaxy sees humanity. Jinwoo stepped forward. "Captain, we were wrong to doubt you. You knew what you were doing all along." "No," Hyejin said honestly. "I did not know. I hoped, I planned. I calculated. But I did not know if it would work. I was terrified it would fail." She smiled. "But I had faith in all of you. I knew that if anyone could pull off something this crazy, it would be a crew of Deathworlders from the Resilience." Dong-hyun raised his glass. "To the captain who won a battle without firing a shot. To the Deathworlder who taught the galaxy what we really are," Subin added. The crew cheered, and Hyejin felt tears in her eyes. These were her people. This was her ship. This was where she belonged. Later, alone on the observation deck, she watched the stars and thought about everything that had changed. Earth was no longer the young, primitive species on probation. Humans were now seen as strategic thinkers, capable of complex problem-solving and psychological warfare that other species could barely comprehend. But that was not what made Hyejin proud. What made her proud was simpler. She had saved lives. She had prevented unnecessary deaths. She had proven that there was always another way, even when violence seemed like the only option. Her communicator beeped. A message from the council station. The first official negotiation session between the Vril and Shalkoth would begin tomorrow morning. Both sides requested that Ambassador Hyejin mediate. She smiled and accepted the invitation. This was just the beginning. There would be more conflicts, more wars to prevent, more species to bring together. The work would never truly be done, but for the first time in her life, Hyejin knew exactly who she was and what she was meant to do. She was a Deathworlder from Earth, shaped by a brutal world into something the galaxy had never seen before. Not a warrior, not a conqueror, but something more dangerous and more valuable, a peacemaker who knew when to fight and when to win without fighting. The galaxy had called her a coward. They would never make that mistake again,